what's up at Crafty Hope, and welcome. I am working on my mixed media prompt project for week 6 of hashtag Crafty Hope prompts. This is a challenge I have come up with for myself, where each week I'm drawing 3 prompts, altering a card for a prompt deck with those 3 prompts, and then later in the week using those 3 prompts for another project. This is that other project. I have a full playlist of weeks 1 through 5 and number 6 card that I'll put up here if you want more information about this. This week my prompts are vintage, StazOn, and watercolor marker. I made this beautiful card. I am smitten with it, and I have to tell you, I've struggled all week with how to top this because I love this card so much, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to top it, but we're gonna work on it. Let me tell you what I have, and then we're gonna get started. So for vintage, that can be pretty much anything in my craft room. I do have these couple of pieces of notebook paper here with writing on it. I'm fairly sure these are vintage, probably 80s, 90s-ish, which makes it vintage. It's more than 25 years old, but I believe I'm going to possibly bring in some kind of vintage image, either a yearbook photo or a vintage photo, I think, are my ideas at the moment. For StazOn, now I know a lot of people don't have the StazOn products. I am personally probably going to either use Jet Black or the Ganache StazOn stamp pads I have. I have a couple others. I think I have a red one, a green one, and a purple one that are floating around in here somewhere. If you don't have the StazOn, you could use some other kind of permanent stamp pad like the archival inks or some other permanent ink. Use just a stamp pad if you don't even have a permanent one. Use something else that's permanent. Use like a Sharpie marker or alcohol inks or acrylic ink, something that has staying power. Just, you know, think about the StazOn as an inspiration for something, not as the product you absolutely have to use. And then watercolor marker. Why am I having trouble saying watercolor? Watercolor marker. Again, I am using mostly Tombows. I think I've got distress markers in here. I've got these Le Plumes. These are just brush tip markers from the Dollar Tree. So I'm considering any of these because they are water reactive. They are what I think of when I think of my watercolor markers. Now, if you don't have that, use a different marker. Use a Crayola one. What are those? The water safe ones, the washable ones that you can get for kids, because you could use that as a watercolor marker and pull the color out. You know, however you want to interpret this, or just use your watercolors. Again, this is just for inspiration. Use watercolors to do mark making, however you want to interpret this. Or I have my whole list below of 156 prompts, and you can pull another prompt if you don't like these. Go for it. Play along however you want. I have decided, based on these prompts, to work kind of small today, and I've got a couple of, what are these, tags, and they are, what size are they? I'm going to tell y'all that real quick, and then I'm going to get started. This, it looks like it's just over 5 inches. Is that right? That seems odd. 5 1/4, which means this is going to be about 2 and not quite 3/4. So I don't know, whatever that is. I don't know. It's what I'm going to use. So I will talk you through the rest of this in a voiceover as I speed it up, because who knows how long that'll take. All right, y'all, let's get to it. The first thing I decide to do is go ahead and cover my tags. So I'm starting with my Uhu glue stick and that notebook paper and just getting right to it, adding that vintage right on there. We'll add some more vintage to this later. But yeah, I'm just going to start by getting this down because I knew I was going to come in next with some of those watercolor markers. So I'm going to show you just on one of these cards. I started thinking I was going to cut it, but I decided to go ahead and just tear the edges. I don't know. I think it's something about the sound of the tearing and the motion of it feels good. And what I can't tear, I'll go ahead and trim, or what doesn't tear well, I'll trim with the scissors. And I'm going to do that on both cards. I'm not going to make y'all watch me trim and tear on both cards. You understand how those things work. So once I get those both done, and I do have to touch them both up a little bit now and then with the glue stick. So I always the edges. It's always the edges. I don't know what it is. So, oh my goodness. Yeah. All right, so I'm doing the other one, and then I select some markers. This first card I started with, it's a distress marker in evergreen bough. And then I'll use a Tombow number 443, and then an American Crafts stamp marker in Aqua. But y'all, you can see why I needed to use these watercolor markers, why they're on my list, is because they never get used. You can see that distress marker. Well, it's a bit distressed. It has dried up, which makes me kind of sad that I have wasted those markers. I think I can possibly reconstitute them. I think I've got some stuff that I can stick it in, and we'll see if I can get it to do. But for now, I got some of that color down, and I have wet a paintbrush, and I am just moving those colors around and kind of blending them for an ombre effect. So I thought, I was trying to think when I thought about the watercolor markers, what are things I can do with it? I wanted to do something different than I did with the card. So I thought, okay, well, I can just color a whole page or a whole card. And that's part of the reason I went with these tags, is that they're smaller. So the second one, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the colors I go with. I'm using Distress marker in Shaded Lilac, I think is the first one I put down. And then 2 of the Tombow markers, which are number 606 and 676. So again, this distress marker has seen better days. I think I even tried dipping this one in some water maybe, and it helped a little, I suppose. So I am going to do a different technique with this one and not use the water to blend them. Instead, since these are brighter colors and a little too bright for me, what I have grabbed is some gesso. And I'm putting that just on a piece of tracing paper, because if I put it on my desk, I'll end up putting my hand in it. So I've got that in a flat kind of bristly brush, and I am going to go over this distress marker with my gesso. I have done this technique before with, I'm trying to think with what, I think with my Bellow Woodies to blend them together. And so I wondered, since these markers are water reactive, if it would work the same way. And y'all, look how neat this worked out. So sure, there's some marks in it here where the gesso is, but I kind of liked that texture. So I'm going to dry these real quick just as they are and leave it. And y'all, I really like the ombre effect. So yeah, I might be using my watercolor markers a little bit more often. Now I pulled out this stamp. It is the, what is it called? Ledger text or something. I'll put it below. It's a Tim Holtz stamp that I recently got, and I decided to come in with it and one of the Tombow markers to see if I can also use these markers to stamp. And this is a brown one. I think it's number 879. So I've got that on there, and then I'm going to re-wet it with my distress sprayer real quick and then stamp it onto these tags. Y'all, I absolutely love this result. Look at this. Oh my gosh, it is so good. I'm going to, again, this is why I have these prompts and have this list of things I never use, so I can try experimenting with them, prompt myself to use the stuff that's in my stash and try different things with it. So it took me a while to get to this project because I knew I wanted to do something different, but I am so happy I've tried a couple things that I really like with this. So to go with that little bit of grunge that's on there, I went ahead and grabbed my cup of instant coffee, reconstituted it, and splattered it on the card just to get a little more yummy grunge. And look at that. Y'all, I get some markers and coffee. I'm just smitten, absolutely smitten. So once that was all dry, I took some big, these are some more Tim Holtz stamps that are letter stamps, and just put them on an acrylic block, just kind of randomly in different, I don't know, orientations. And I've used my StazOn here, which is another one of my prompts. And I'm just, that's the black StazOn, and I'm putting it on these tags, just getting, some big blocky, I don't know. I wanted something that would stand out. I wasn't happy with that stamp there, and it still just didn't do great. I don't think I got enough ink on that R. And then just for a little movement, one of my favorite things to do is just to take this chunky pencil and kind of just scribble. And so that's what I did. And it blends really well. So I blended it a little bit to make it feel a little more aged and vintage. And then I grabbed one of my own hand carved stamps and some more StazOn. This is the Ganache. So it's a dark, dark brown. I don't think you can even notice that it is brown on here. It's almost so dark. And I'm just going to put this scallopy stamp in a couple places on the card just to give it more of a feminine touch, maybe. Just so that it had some more curves, I think, to it. Everything was feeling kind of blocky. And so the movement with the pencil helped, but not quite enough. But y'all, I am absolutely in love with these tags. I love how that ombre looks, and this was fun. I'm glad I sat and thought about it for a little bit, and I don't think I could have done something as thorough in like an art journal or something. I think it worked much better on this tag. So I decided for my vintage, I was going to bring, well, more vintage. I was going to bring in some yearbook photos. This is a 1953 yearbook, I believe, out of, I think, Montgomery. And I'm just tearing some of the images out. I just want like 2 for each card. So I'm tearing this down just to get those nice torn edges. And I really liked the girl on the bottom, the blonde girl on the bottom of that one. There's something just so prim and proper about her. I don't know. I liked her so much. So those are going to be, it's also vintage here. And I'm moving them around, trying to decide what to do with them. And I decide what I need to do is, I think, I'm trying to remember what the next thing I actually do. Oh, I'm going to distress that one. I ball it up a little bit and bend it just to give it some more texture and age. I decide not to do it with the one on the right for some reason. One of them got gesso, one of them didn't. I'm just kind of experimenting with how things look with this. And it felt right. So I've decided to darken the edges a little bit. You can still see bits of the tag and the white around it. So yeah, I'm grabbing, I don't even know what the number is, y'all. It's one of the Tombos. It's a black one. Or it could be dark gray. I'm not real sure. I put it back so quickly, I don't even know. But I'm just darkening these up a little, and then I'll grab my paintbrush again and just blur it again because, if something's water reactive, I want to use it that way. And in doing this, I did get some distortion around the edges because, this is on top of some other water reactive things. So things will move except for the StazOn. So, and that's part of the reason I think I waited to put the StazOn is because it's permanent. Once I put it down, it wasn't going to move. I couldn't just rub my finger over it and have it do something different and change it. I had a hard time getting to that StazOn. So when I finally did it, it was good. And okay, so then I decided to use also my brown, that Ganache StazOn, to ink up the edges just a bit more. I didn't feel like the Tombow had done quite enough. It did great on the outer edges, but I needed a little bit more. And I knew somewhere toward the beginning of this I was going to add some gold splatter, so I went ahead and grabbed my Liquitex acrylic ink and gold and a fan brush. And yeah, I'm going to get some gold splatter right onto these cards. And y'all, it's perfect. It's exactly what these cards needed. It kind of elevates them a little with that bit of shine and sparkle and elegance or something. So I'll dry that real quick, and then yeah, since I put that gold splatter on there, I decided I needed some more gold on here, and I had some gold embroidery floss sitting off to the side from another project. And so I'm just it unravels pretty easily, but I was rushing, so I fought with it a little bit. And I wanted to see, yep, that's what I wanted. But before I did anything else, let me go ahead and punch those holes out. So I grabbed just y'all, I don't even know where I got that hole punch. Um, so I'm punching that out. Just a regular, like, office supply hole punch would work fine too. I just couldn't find that one at the moment. So I've got those hole punched and it left those blank edges. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that black Tombow again and just go around it super quick. And of course, I went off a little, so because it's water reactive, I can just wet that and move it, and it's gone. How awesome is that? So I'm going to go ahead and start sticking my focal down. I'm taking my Oohoo glue stick again and just rubbing it straight onto my card and sticking that frayed floss in there. I'm trying to tuck some of the edges or the ends of it up in there. And then I try to put my photo there down, but it didn't quite work there. So I did it again, and y'all, I had stuff all over my fingers and it got all over those yearbook photos, so I had to fix it later with some water. But for now, yeah, I wiped my hands off camera on some baby wipes to clean them before I did the second card. So I'm grabbing the other part of that embroidery floss, and I had a little more time taking this side apart than I did that first one. So it's a little bit chunkier because I didn't have the patience to pull it apart. Yeah, I'd already done it once. And I don't know what made me decide to do 2 cards again. I know I did that, I think, back at week 1. But I like the ability to, like, work between the 2 things and kind of compare, like, one of them I added the water and one of them I added the gesso, and that one I crumpled, and just to kind of do a little bit of different but using the same things. So I did the same thing here and stuck my floss down and stuck my images down, and then I'm going to go grab a vintage book. This is I think it was 1937 book, and I'm not going to make y'all sit through me flipping through it forever looking for phrases, but as soon as I found this one that says what does it say? I don't have it in front of me now. Flirtations are just too delightful. I thought that was great with I don't know, like I said, that girl at the bottom, she just tickles me. So I thought that was kind of perfect for her. So I tried to put the word there next to her, but it just didn't feel right there at the bottom of the tag. So I moved it up, and that's where it's going to go. So again with the Oohoo, and I'm going to stick that down, and then I'll dip back into my book to look for a sentiment for the other tag and making sure that's sticking down. And I'm loving it, y'all. So happy. Tickled, absolutely happy with these. They came out beautifully. So I found this one that, what does it say? What does it say? It says, "Good for you, honey." And y'all, that tickles me. I don't know why, but good for you, honey. So that goes on these 2 girls, and you can decide who's saying it to who. But that goes down, and then I want to add just a little bit of a, like, ribbon at the top. So I tore down some fabric again that was just sitting on my desk. I think it's some duck cloth. And I tore it down. It's super ratty since it's been torn, and I made a lark's head knot at the top, and you'll see that. I found that if you want the knot in the front for your lark's head knot, make sure you put the fold, when you fold it, put that fold inside the front, pull it in the back, open that loop up, and then tuck that in. And remember, do not pull too tightly or it will tear like it did in week 1. And that's it, guys. I am absolutely tickled with these 2 tags. I hope you like them too. Make sure to give me a like and a thumbs up and subscribe. And let me know if you have any questions. Use that hashtag Crafty Hope Prompts if you're playing along. I want to see what you make too. Thanks, y'all. Bye.